I now wish to call Director Bishop Kariuki Njoroge to lead us in the prayers. Welcome, Director.
Let us all stand for prayer. Almighty and ever-living God, we approach your throne of grace this day with humility, praise, and thanksgiving. We praise you for this wonderful day that we have congregated here to launch this long-awaited national care reform strategy for the children of Kenya and the national plan of action to tackle unright sexual exploitation and abuse. We thank you, our Heavenly Father, for our government led by His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta for minding the welfare of the children of Kenya. We also thank you for our Cabinet Secretary, Professor Margaret Kobia, and for our Principal Secretary, Nelson Marwa, for their diligent guidance in the development of this document we're about to launch. May this ceremony bring honor and glory to your name. This we pray in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
May we take our seats, please. Waziri Professor Kobia, who is the Minister for Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizens, Social Protections and Special Program, our chief guest, the Most Reverend Dr. Jackson Oresapit, development partners, in this particular case led by Mama Manisa Zamani. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to skip our presentation because we believe most of the speakers will be referring to that presentation, the content of that presentation, in the interest of time. The audience comprises social protection practitioners. You will see all of them are here. Children of this country representatives, 40 states, technical heads of departments from various ministries. And these are the people, Waziri, who have really supported this process. Formed the committee, teamed up with the development partners. I'm sure when Manisa will be speaking, she will be referring to those development partners that support UNICEF. So I deliberately avoided to comment, to refer to them in detail. Waziri, allow us, because I know Waziri will make special reference also to the chief guest. A little bit of his citation. We know him as Kenyans, but today he's here, and Waziri, you will make that comment. May I reserve that for you, Waziri. Allow us, Waziri, to invite a very important guest. Should they call her? This is Madam Agnes Mwenda, who is the chair person, Governor of Kenya Children Assemblies in Nairobi County. She's the Governor Waziri, and we wish her well. Agnes, karibu uongee na wenzako. Unaongea na wale wenzako wote Kenya nzima, wale watoto wa Kenya wanakuangalia kwa TV saa hizi, na wale watoto duniani nzima. Sasa wewe ndiye mkubwa wao. Karibu sana.
The chief guest, Most Reverend Dr. Jackson Ole Sapit, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizen Affairs and Special Programs, Prof. Margaret Kobia, the Principal Secretary, Mr. Nelson, NCAJ Chair of Special Task Force on Children Matters, Lady Justice Teresia, UNICEF Country Representative, Ms. Maniza, USAID Deputy Mission Director, Mr. Bat, SIDA Sweden, Head of Development Corporation Kenya Office, Ms. Anika, Country Director, Changing the Way We Care, Ms. Rebecca, representatives from partners, government ministries, departments and agencies, fellow children, distinguished guests, good morning. My name is Agnes Mwendwa, the chairperson of the Kenya Children Assembly in Nairobi City County. I sat down and took time to figure out the problems and challenges that are affecting us as children. I understand that we face various challenges, but today I will particularly speak on child online exploitation and abuse. Basically, child online abuse is the use of various social media platforms to infringe and manipulate children's mental, emotional, and psychological health. Children need to be given special online protection, which is mainly through equipping them with the necessary information and knowledge on how to surf safely online. Children must fully know and understand how online platforms operate for their own safety. My fellow children, it is important to note that some strangers online are not good, usually as they disguise themselves. Many have different and often bad intentions and objectives while interacting with you on those social media platforms. There are different forms of child online abuse. Allow me to start with what is called solicitation of minor. Solicitation of minor involves engaging in conversation with children where the minor ends up being asked for a physical meeting. The motives of the meeting could be to lure children to commit crimes, engage in sexual activities, or to be kidnapped. These criminals befriend you and establish emotional connections with the aim of mastering your protective instincts in preparation to exploit you. It is truly heartbreaking and annoying to see my fellow children falling into such traps. I urge you all to be careful on considering to physical meeting online strangers without your parent or guardian's consent. The other and most common abuse is cyberbullying. Bullying is a cyber where children or teenagers are harassed, threatened, insulted, teased, or blackmailed by their online predators. Cyberbullies send intimidating posts or false information about their victims on blogs, websites, or social media platforms, aiming to embrace or humiliate them. Research shows that 80% of affected children and teenagers rarely tell their guardians about such experiences, and they also do not capitalize on the online protective and communication technologies to prevent future incidents. You never have to take any blame or stress yourself with anything said against you by such people. Some people do that out of unhappiness and full of frustration from their own lives, which should not be drawn into your hands. You should instead discharge and delete such messages. You can easily block and report any harmful information or threats respective to the community guidelines of the various social media platforms. Such cyberbullies can be legally prosecuted by the law. Lastly, I would like to touch on online grooming. You may ask yourself, what is online grooming? So, this is a form of online crime where strangers build emotional bonds with the children to gain their trust for the purpose of sexual exploitation. The perpetrators can induce you to their traps through entails such as money and gifts to get your attention and affection. As a child, know how to relate to people and how to maintain the standards and boundaries that one should cross. Do not trust strangers with your heart or feeling, for you might end up emotionally, psychologically, or worse, physically damaged. Coming to the end of my words, I'll conclude by saying this. All parents and guardians are responsible for protecting their children from online predators and other forms of child abuse. The Children's Act number 8 of 2001, Part 2, Section 15, clearly states that a child shall be protected from all sexual activities, and anyone found engaging in any of the above shall be imprisoned for a term not less than 12 months. As children, let us fight for the protection of our rights and defend our freedoms. The future of every child matters in solidarity. As I continue to serve you, let's always stand for what is right. Thank you for your time. Spread the message, educate the society, enlighten your parents and guardians, and pray for a better future for every child in Kenya and by far this world. The God Almighty bless you all and keep you safe. Thank you.
Yeah, that is our typical governor, sindio? Asante sana, makofi jameni. Asante sana Agnes, I'm sure wenzako kule nje wamekufuatilizia vizuri na ni mwelekeo mwema umewapatia. We would like to ask our chief guest to allow us to allow the Catholic Relief Services to play a critical role in this country. At your level, our chief guest and interaction, I think you've interacted with these organizations many times. They work very closely with the Ministry of Public Service and gender, senior assistance, social protection, and special programs on matters children's protection. They also do respond to emergencies and handle a number of calamities, not just in Kenya, but globally. So today, our chief guest and our CS, we are privileged to have amidst us a powerful speaker, whom through you, chief guest, I would like to invite. Karibu, Madam Rebecca.
His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Jackson, Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Cabinet Secretary, Professor Margaret Kobia, Principal Secretary, State Department for Social Protection, Mr. Nelson Mawa Sospita, Lady Justice Teresia Matheka, Chair of Special Task Force on Children's Matters, Ms. Maniza Zaman, UNICEF Country Representative, Ms. Heidi Obra, USA Deputy Director, Health Population and Nutrition Office, Ms. Annika Ottersted, CEDA, Sweden, Embassy of Sweden, Ms. Beatrice Muemia, Child Fund, Agnes Mwenda, Governor of the Kenya Children's Assemblies, Nairobi County. On behalf of Catholic Relief Services Program in Kenya and the Changing the Way We Care initiative, I'm really honored to share a few remarks with you this morning. CRS has been operating in Kenya since 1965, and our approach to delivering outcomes at scale has been and continues to be facilitative, with a focus on partnerships, capacity building, and with a strong commitment to local leadership. We work through local implementing partners and collaborate closely with the Government of Kenya stakeholders. Our portfolio's current and recent programs illustrates our commitment to fostering subsidiarity through capacity strengthening initiatives. We work in several counties in Kenya, and our programming areas include agriculture and livelihoods, health, water and sanitation, peace building, and social services for children and families, where our work with the Government of Kenya on care reform is anchored. And our care reform initiative is very closely aligned with CRS's agency-wide Vision 2030 strategy, with the goal areas of focus that aims at ensuring children reach their full potential in safe and nurturing families and empowering youth to thrive. In respect to partnership and collaboration with the government in support for care reform, the Changing the Way We Care Kenya is part of a global initiative funded by MacArthur Foundation, USAID and GHR Foundation, and Morgan Stanley. The initiative seeks to facilitate a shift from keeping vulnerable children in residential care to having children grow within families and community-based care. Changing the Way We Care partners with NCCS and DCS at the national level, and in the 4 Changing the Way We Care demonstration counties of Kilifi, Kisumu, Nyamira, and Siaya. Changing the Way We Care currently works with and supports 104 caseworkers and case managers drawn from CCIs and local partners. And the initiative has successfully reintegrated 859 children into 605 families over the past 3 years. During that same period of time, the initiative supported 16,674 children at risk of separation into 4,509 families. We continue to work with the Government of Kenya and partners on innovative ways to ensure alternative family care systems, such as the Kafala model, and to seek ways of strengthening families of children with disabilities. CRS has worked closely with the Director of Children's Services, Director of Social Development, National Council of Persons with Disability, and National Council of Children's Services to advance the National Care Reform Strategy, which today is being launched among other care reform-related documents. please let me take this opportunity to also recognize the important and strategic partnership between CRS and Changing the Way We Care initiative and the State Department for Social Protection, Senior Citizens Affairs, and Special Programs, and with the NCCS, a strong partnership that we recently formalized through a signed MOU. CRS recognizes the expertise of many other partners in achieving the care reform agenda in Kenya. Hence, we continue to work and build close collaborations with such as UNICEF, Star Hill Foundation, SOS Children's Villages Kenya, the USAID-funded local primes, organizations of persons with disabilities, religious leaders, CCIs, local partners, and families and their children to deliver safe, nurturing family care for children who are currently in residential care and those at risk of separation. Moving forward, the Changing the Way We Care initiative and CRS commit to continue to collaborate with the Director of Children's Services, Director of Social Development, National Council for Persons with Disability, and the National Council of Children's Services, as well as the various non-state actors, families, children, to support government's efforts aimed at enhancing care reform for children and strengthening families. I thank you for your attention this morning, and it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Beatrice Mwenta, Child Fund, to share her remarks. Thank you.
Our chief guest, Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, His Greatness, the Most Reverend Dr. Jackson Ole Sapit, our Cabinet Secretary, Professor Margaret Kobia, our Principal Secretary, Nelson Marwa, National Council for the Administration of Justice, Chair of Special Task Force on Children Matters, Lady Justice Teresia Matheka, UNICEF Country Representative, Ms. Maniza Zaman, USA Deputy Director, Health, Population and Nutrition Office, Mr. USA Deputy Director, Health, Population and Nutrition Office, Mr. Heidi Obra, SIDA Sweden Representative, Annika Otezit, Country Representative, Catholic Relief Services, Kenya, Somalia, Ms. Rebecca Halam, and all protocol observed. My name is Eunice Kilundo, representing Child Fund Country Director, Alice Anukur, who for some reason was not able to make it for the function. Receive greetings from her. On behalf of child-focused civil society organizations, we are delighted to participate in the launch of this national plan of action. This launch would not have come at a better time. Various recent study findings on the extent and effects of online child sexual exploitation and abuse of children not only sound an alarm, but call for urgent and collaborative efforts to combat this vice. Such studies include the We Protect 2021 Global Threat Assessment, which indicates that online child sexual exploitation and abuse has rapidly increased in Africa, with about 57% of the reports, Southern and Eastern of the report, Southern and Eastern Africa respondents sharing Oxia incidences. In 2020, Kenya law enforcement received 14,434 cyber tips from the U.S. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a nearly 13% increase over the 2019 report. According to the 2021 Disrupting Harm in Kenya report, over 50% of surveyed frontline workers believe cases go unreported due to low awareness of reporting mechanisms. 61% of surveyed children in the Disrupting Harm report, aged between 12 and 17 years old, were not sure where to get support if they experienced sexual abuse. A third of children respondents that experienced online sexual exploitation and abuse did not disclose it to anyone, and many shared that they were not sure where to get help. Law enforcement, judiciary, and social services staff lack adequate training on how to identify Oxia, how to support victims, and how to properly investigate these cases. Interagency coordination still remains weak, thus hindering information sharing. 67% of children aged 12 to 17 years in Kenya reported having access to internet. Two-thirds of whom do not receive any guidance on online risks or how to navigate the online space. It is against this backdrop that the NPA is being launched. On behalf of children-focused civil society organizations, we applaud the government of Kenya for consistently demonstrating high-level commitment in the fight against Oxia. This NPA comes as an addition to already good efforts that the government of Kenya is already making towards combating Oxia, such as in the area of research, securing membership in the We Protect Global Network, development of guidelines, improvement of services to victims, monitoring and reporting and coordination, among very other many commendable achievements. This NPA will therefore further strengthen these already existing efforts through ensuring improved coordination at all levels of intervention to protect children against Oxia, enhanced knowledge and skills for child protection actors on Oxia prevention and response, strengthened technical, institutional, and human capacities across key sectors, both at national and county level, to prevent, identify, and respond to Oxia, improve supporting investigation, prosecution, and provision of quality support services to victims and witnesses, among very many other great interventions. As child-focused civil society organizations, we reaffirm our commitment to supporting this and other existing efforts in order to reverse this alarming trend in Oxia, acknowledging that a lot still needs to be done. We particularly wish to call for the speedy enactment of the Children's Bill, increased budget allocation for the achievement of the full range of rights of children, strengthening of formal mechanisms for meaningful child participation, and increased multi-sectoral collaboration on online sexual exploitation and abuse. We call upon all to join efforts in ensuring that children and youth safely enjoy the benefits of the online space within a supportive and protective environment. Thank you. I now call upon the next speaker, Ms. Anita Osentes, to come and give her remarks.
Honorable Cabinet Secretary Professor Kovia, Your Grace, Reverend Dr. Jackson, all protocols observed. I'm here to represent Sweden and Swedish stand on this issue. As we all here understand, the protection of children and the protection of children's rights is fundamental if we want to see a peaceful, democratic development, an inclusive development of any country. I think that you might know that Sweden, in all international fora at global level, in the UN, in the EU, and in many other occasions, Sweden is there to protect children's rights, together with our colleagues, of course, in the Kenyan government, here represented, with our UN colleagues, here represented by UNICEF. I think from what I've seen traveling around the country, these issues are extremely fundamental if we want to see a more resilient community-based development. After COVID, it was pretty clear that in many regions, not only did we see the consequences of COVID due to girls and boys not being able to attend school, staying at home with stressed parents and relatives and friends, and there was a lot of abuse going on within the houses, within the families, within the places where children should feel most protected. We also see in many regions that there is still a high prevalence of HIV/AIDS, which of course also makes it very difficult for young children to feel safe and secure and protected within their own family spheres. This is, of course, not because people in general are mean. It's usually because a lot of people, a lot of grown-ups, no excuses to perpetrators, but excuses to people who try to take care of their children, who perhaps sometimes do not have the ability, the economic means, or the intellectual capacity to ensure that their children are safe, that their children do not meet up with grown-up men or women who are not nice to them, who do not have the children's interest in mind. So I think that what is, of course, important from a development perspective is that we do not only look upon children and try to ensure their rights. We also have to ensure their parents' rights and grown-ups' rights to have economic opportunities, to be able to involve themselves in local policy development, in politics, but not the least in finding jobs, so that they are able to support their children. I think that many children across the world today also feel very stressed about the fact that there is a climate change going on, there are conflicts going on, and people, and especially young people, have great access to internet and to a lot of information which they cannot digest easily. And of course, if you live in a small village or in an area, perhaps in a capital, where people, grown-up people around you, do not have the understanding of what is happening and cannot explain to you the reasons behind all these stressful developments that take place. It might be that you as a child feel that, what's the point of everything? I don't see that my parents or that grown-ups around me have opportunities. They don't have a vision for the future. So I think that's also, it has an impact on children's belief in their future and also their belief in their own abilities and their rights. So I think all of us here, we have to make sure that development is inclusive. Development enables everybody in the society to have a place and to know their rights And therefore, it's also important to increase support to civil society, who actively, in a lot of regions in a country, can ensure that people participate, know their rights, and who can also act as some sort of a watchdog to ensure that politicians, companies, we as development partners really play the role that we should play. So from the part of Sweden, I would like to encourage all of us to ensure in our own houses, in our own schools where our children are during the days, in our workplaces, and wherever we see that abuse is taking place. Of course, we should act upon what we see, and we should ensure that all young people around us know their rights, and we should act if we see that things are not going in the right direction. So I really want to say good luck to the young persons who have spoken up today, because I've never heard so eloquent speeches from such young people in any country. So congratulations to Kenya that you have all these young people who can stand up for themselves and probably be a good vision for the global world on how young people can ensure their own rights and therefore also contribute to the development of the society. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you, Sida, Madam Anita. Just our chief guest, allow us to invite on stage USAID Deputy Director for Health, Population and Nutrition, Mrs. Harriet Cobra. Most welcome.
Good morning. I think it's still morning, at least right now. Thank you, Cabinet Secretary, Professor Margaret Copia, for honoring me in here today. Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Reverend Dr. Jackson Ole. Permanent Secretary, State Department Social Protection, Nelson Marwas Sospeter. Chief of Special Task Force on Children's Matters, Lady Justice Teresia Masheka. CEO of NCCS, Abdenur Mohammed, and Children's Assembly's representative, Agnes Mwendwa, and the representative from the Kenya Association of Care Leavers, Mr. Bernard Mwololo. Also to my development partners, all protocols observed. Thank you again to the State Department for Social Protection, Senior Citizens Affairs, Gender, and Special Programming for inviting me here today. I'm honored to celebrate the launch of the Government of Kenya's Care Reform Strategy and the National Plan of Action to tackle online child sexual exploitation and abuse. The Care Reform Strategy is a huge step forward for orphans and vulnerable children across Kenya, decreasing resilience on residential-based care and focusing more on a family and community-based approach. Children thrive when surrounded by consistent, nurturing, loving, and protective care from parents and other caregivers. This provides the foundation necessary to develop essential, lifelong, intellectual, social, and physical capacities. Families, when supported, provide critically important connections for cultural learning, social integration, and economic opportunities, as well as support through difficult times. The Care Reform Strategy is designed to support this family and community-based model. Through the United States government's Advancing Protection and Care for Children in Adversity Strategy, USAID is putting family first. We support the most vulnerable children who are or at risk of living outside of family care by promoting, funding, and supporting nurturing, loving, protective, and permanent family care. The vulnerabilities of children and families are complex and Kenya's care reform strategy will be successful if we work together to support it. The strategy calls for strengthened coordination and collaboration from the local to the national level and brings together many sectors and stakeholders to address the needs of the most vulnerable children. USAID is proud to support the government of Kenya as they implement this care reform strategy and the accompanying implementation plan. The plan will provide a framework and guide the transition from residential care while strengthening the work of the Department of Children's Services. Through our partners, UNICEF and Changing the Way We Care, USAID supported the development of this strategy and continues to work with the government of Kenya on care reform. In addition, through the United States President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, also known as PEPFAR, the U.S. government supports approximately 700,000 orphans and vulnerable children across Kenya through a community-based model of care, which includes services such as educational support, increasing access to health and social services, and parenting support for caregivers. USAID will continue to support the government of Kenya as they actively work to provide a brighter future to Kenya's most vulnerable children and youth. We are prepared to share our expertise and our experiences, as for more than 27 years, we have been responding to the needs of orphans and vulnerable children in Kenya and around the globe. USAID congratulates the government of Kenya on the launch of the care reform strategy, and we look forward to a continued partnership towards better protection and care for all of Kenya's children. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, USAID. Thank you, Madam Obra. The chief guests, allow me, UNICEF will make reference to these development partners, chief guests, because they are those programs that they work, they collaborate very closely. The next on stage, chief guest and the Waziri is the UNICEF country representative to Kenya. UNICEF is everywhere, as you may know. Allow me to use that term. They are everywhere now. Matters children, matters nutrition. They are in all ministries now. But when you make an appointment, commitment with them, they will be there. We have a practical example in our department and ministry. At 11th hour, we drop a request, they respond positively. If you give Madam Manisa an appointment of midnight to handle a crisis, I'm sure she will be there. I know how they manage time. She is surrounded by a technical team of specialists, some of whom are here. We worked closely, Waziri and the chief guest. It's important to mention this. Not only for this particular occasion, they have seconded technical staff to our department for technical support. We don't take that for granted. So before us, chief guest, is a lady who is representing a renowned organization called UNICEF in the name of Manisa Zamani. Karibu, madam.
Thank you. His Grace, the Most Reverend Dr. Jackson, Professor Margaret Kobia, all development partners on the high table, all the friends here, all protocols observed, and allow me to say especially dear friend Agnes. Delighted to share the table with you too. Thank you also, PS, for those very kind and generous sentiments for UNICEF. And as you say, I stand here to represent the organization, but it's really kudos to the technical teams and my colleagues who work so closely with yourselves. And I really want to appreciate them as well. So let me say that I'm delighted to join you at this key milestone event for children's rights. We're here to discuss and to celebrate two areas of work, the care reform strategy, but also to launch the plan of action to end online sexual exploitation and abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with some of the fundamentals. Every child in Kenya has the right to grow up in a supportive environment where they can thrive and reach their full potential. The very early years, from 0 to 5 years old, are the most crucial to a child's brain development. When a baby cries, for example, the caregiver often responds with eye contact and some comforting words or holds them close. And this kind of responsive environment strengthens connections of the brain. This is how we all have learned to talk, to form bonds, and to know that we are loved, and to give love back. But this only happens in a supportive and family type of environment. If a child grows up in an environment without at least one dedicated caregiver, this poses a serious threat to their development. When neglected, a child's brain is flooded with harmful stress hormones, which cause negative patterns that stay with them for the rest of their lives. This is why any care model which relies on children growing up in institutions, however well-meaning they may be, is of great concern to UNICEF. Dear friends, probably the most significant research on orphanages is from Romania, which found that for every 3 months that a child was in an institution, they lost 1 month of development compared to a child in a family-based care. And yet, worldwide, we still have 2.7 million children who continue to live in residential care. Here in Kenya, we want to applaud and celebrate the improvements, but we still know that there are far too many children that live in institutions. And this is often because of poverty. Families are not seeing an alternative way than to put their children into care. We know that prior to COVID-19 pandemic, around 45,000 children were living in registered care facilities. These children that are left behind in orphanages tend to be children from poor families. They may have experienced violence, harmful cultural practices, been in conflict with the law, or even have been living on the streets. But ladies and gentlemen, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many children were actually moved out of these institutions and back with their biological families or alternative family-based settings, such as extended families or foster care. As a result, we saw a 42% reduction in the numbers of children in registered facilities. But then again, when schools reopened, many of these same children returned to institutions because the underlying reasons for them being there had not been fully addressed. My colleagues recently went to Kisumu and they met 13-year-old Fabian. He had just been returned from an institution to live with his grandmother. And Fabian was clearly thriving. He said, "I told my social worker that I wanted to go and live with my grandmother because I felt that was the best place for me to learn." And Fabian's grandmother put it even more simply. She just said, I love him, and he loves me a lot. Dear guests, studies suggest that up to 90% of children living in institutions are actually not orphans, but they have at least one living parent. So if the problem isn't about absence of parents, then we need to identify and address the real issues. If the issue is poverty, then we need to help vulnerable families through social protection measures, such as cash transfers or livelihood support. If the problem is hidden costs of schooling, treating an illness, or caring for a child with disabilities, then we must provide truly universal free education and improve access to healthcare and disability support. If the problem is about violence at home, harmful cultural practices, or stigma, then we should focus on prevention and creating a strong child protection system. Ladies and gentlemen, UNICEF is very pleased that the government of Kenya is taking this kind of bold action on this issue. The care reform strategy, which we are launching today, aims to do precisely that, provide alternative solutions so that family separation is no longer the only option. And for the last 5 years, UNICEF and our partners have supported the government to pilot and expand care reform strategies across 5 counties, including Kisumu. This is a positive step forward, and I would really like to thank the Stahili Foundation, Changing the Way We Care Consortium, the End Violence Fund, supported by governments of Norway, Sweden, and the United States, for helping to fund these essential pilot programs. But we know we have more to do. More action is needed to prevent the separation of children from their parents in the very first place. And right now, we also need to support all children that are still living in these institutions, including to trace their families and reintegrating them into a family setting where possible. And we need to move from the pilots, and we need to make that the norm. And it is our hope that the new guidance and toolkits that we are launching today will help us complete this journey. The government can count on UNICEF's continued support. Our shared goal is by 2032, most children and young people in Kenya will live happily in a safe and nurturing family-based care environment. Dear friends, I want to turn to the second issue that we are considering today. Unfortunately, even in a loving family setting, we must acknowledge that our children are growing up in a new world with many more new risks. Many of them are being driven by the internet. The trend of children and adolescents spending more time online is increasing exponentially, perhaps even in part due to the shift to online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. With this, the risk of online sexual exploitation is also rising, making it even more urgent to invest in children's online safety and protection. As we all know, used well, the internet is a powerful tool to connect, to learn, to engage in a creative and empowering way. But spending more time online inevitably brings increased risks and threats of harm to children, some of which are very unique to the online context, and Agnes spoke eloquently about them. Already, we have half of young Kenyans who have suffered at least one form of physical, emotional, and sexual violence during their childhoods. The increased risk of harm which the online world brings now cannot be ignored. 6% of Kenyan children have already shared images or videos of their bodies with other internet users. 14% have gone on to meet a person, a stranger they first encountered online. the risk of abuse is obvious. And let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the internet does not forget. And the trauma the children face when they are subject to this kind of exploitation and abuse stays, and it stays on and on. So we have to work together to help children benefit from the opportunities that the internet brings, while rigorously safeguarding children from the risks and threats of harm. So just as the care reform strategy brings potential and promise of benefits to children's well-being, UNICEF warmly welcomes the National Plan of Action to address online sexual exploitation and abuse. Its starting point is to engage all of society to prevent this type of exploitation. It outlines measures to improve online laws and policies, to strengthen capacities at different levels, to streamline reporting, to raise awareness, and to establish the appropriate response and support mechanisms. And we will continue to work with law enforcement, the criminal justice system, social services to prevent and respond to online offending against children. So yes, we will continue to support the government and partners to improve early intervention, to engage with families and caregivers so that this does not continue and expand in Kenya. So as I end, let me say, as you all know, UNICEF, of course, is passionate about children, and care and protection is central to their well-being. These kind of care-related challenges that we are talking about today are a reflection of a broader social welfare challenge. These two flagship care initiatives, which UNICEF is proud to have helped develop, are more than a vision for care reform and online safety. They are bold statements about the kind of society we want for the children of Kenya, and that's why we are here. So I hope, together with all the other child protection initiatives that are being ably led by the government of Kenya, this strategy and action plan we are launching today will really help transform social welfare systems across Kenya and also pave the way, actually, for other countries in the Eastern and Southern African region. So my friends, distinguished guests, I think together we actually can change the lives of countless vulnerable children like the young Fabian we met in Kisumu. And as we do that, we will be building a better society for every child and adult here in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Manisa, for that powerful remarks. Chief guest and Waziri, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to bring to you a very important Kenyan lady who has contributed to legal regimes and reforms and the children issues and the matters in this country. She was part of the development of Children's Bill together with Chief Justice Martha Koome. She is very, very committed. No matter where she is, when she gets notices for meeting, she will be there. This is Lady Justice Teresia Madeka. She is participating online. Karibu, Lady Justice Madeka.
Professor Kobia, our chief guest, the Most Reverend Jackson Olesapit, Agnes Mwendwa, the representative of the children today, watoto ambao mko hapo, all protocols observed. Let me begin by saying how I miss the warmth of being present in person. I would have really loved to be there, but due to calls of duty, the course list I had that I could not adjourn for today, I had to remain behind and do part of the work, adjourn for 2 hours to attend this meeting and go back to court. So I really feel that I'm missing something. I would have wanted to be there to everybody and to participate in the activities that have been, on and off, when I'm on and off going on as I was in and out of court. Some of them would like to see what was going on. So thank you so much for allowing me to participate online. Let me also begin by saying that I would like to adopt a lot of what has been said to avoid repetition, because it is clear to me that we all want the same thing, that we are here to speak about social transformation through access to justice for children. And why do I say this? Because the documents we are launching today, in my understanding, and in the way that I've seen them and the way we have been participating in all of them, it is to change the way we deal with the issues of the children who need care and protection in our country. Watoto ambao wanahitaji kutunzwa na kulindwa. I think that's the way we say it in Kiswahili. Children who need care and protection, kutunzwa na kulindwa, because they do not have that in their families. I would like to say one word about the NCAJ, the task force which I chair, that it is part of the National Council of Administration of Justice, which, as you may all be aware, is a body that coordinates all the justice actors in Kenya. High-level policy-making body that recognizes that all actors are needed in the justice system to access or to enable all the people of Kenya to access justice. Today, as we all sit here, all of us, together with the children who are present, it is a reflection of that unified approach to ensuring that justice is enabled for every Kenyan in this country. And I wish to say that as we launch these documents, from where I sit, it is a really big step towards this changing the way we look at children who need care and protection. Why? Because we are a family. The rights of every child to a family, to parental care, to love, guidance, and protection. I wish to point out that in the justice system, Section 119 of the Children's Act, I'm sorry to quote the law, but it is there that for the justice system, categories of children who need care and protection are set out. These children are children who may be an orphan, a child who may be truant, a child who may be begging in the street, a child who is pregnant, a child who is abused, a child who could be terminally ill, a child who is displaced, a child engaged in the use of drugs or substances declared to be drugs by the Ministry of Health, children who are not in conflict with the law but are abandoned, neglected, abused, and endangered and at danger of social risk. These are children who enter the justice system because of the environment in which they grow. Because as a society or as families, there is somewhere we have let go. And when they enter the justice system, the justice actors, more often than not, are forced to send them to an institution. I am certain that the reform strategy we are launching today will give a reprieve to all these persons involved in the justice system, so that when a child gets into the justice system because of these particular issues, they do not have to end up in an institution, but they can end up in a family or somewhere in the community where everyone has already said is the best place for that child. But how will this work for us? How will we make sure it is effective? It is only if it is properly disseminated And we already have those structures. As the Special Task Force on Children Matters, we have the portfolios committees that on the ground where this strategy, as long as it is well disseminated and all persons in the sector are aware, we can be sure that along the way we will be able to make sure that children get what they deserve. Because its implementation will guarantee its full benefits to the Kenyan child. The NCAJ welcomes the scorecard to evaluate its implementation. With regard to the second document on OXEA, I again want to adopt what people have said before me to avoid repetition, but just to point out that, as we have all said, technology and the global village that has been created through access to the internet has brought its own challenges, because our children have become the target of this new dark thing, online sexual exploitation and abuse, where these crimes became heightened during the pandemic, where our lives and everything that we did somehow had to be connected to the internet. Our daily lives, our children's learning had to be connected to the internet. We have a legal framework that has been, as it has been pointed out, it has its own gaps. And these gaps need to be filled so that we can have an effective protection for our children. I want to add my voice very loudly to the people who have asked that the children's bill be passed, because in that bill, we have added this particular issue into the law. This is urgent. The passage of this bill is urgent in that the children cannot wait anymore. Because having that law passed will actually fill in some of the gaps that we have in our legal protection for children with respect to OXEA. We have heard from the children themselves. They have spoken about, from Alice, they have spoken about what it means to them, what it means, trying to define what this OXEA is all about and what they need to do. But having a legal framework that defines those terms, that puts them out there, that enables people who are in the system to deal with these people and bring them to account would be one big step in dealing with that particular issue. I would say this, that the National Plan of Action to tackle child sexual exploitation and abuse has come at the right time. At the NCAJ, we have taken a step even before, as you may be aware, adopting the curriculum to train the actors, together with UNICEF, also train the actors in the justice system to equip them with the knowledge, skills, and the skills to hold these perpetrators to account. But I want to emphasize, adding my voice to Agnes's voice, that the key is in prevention. How do we effectively make our children aware of these violence so that they too can be in the front line to protect themselves against this vice? I think that is the big question in the room. How do we empower our children to be able to protect themselves, to know when these criminals come calling that this is a signal that something wrong is about to happen and I have to inform somebody in authority or stop dealing with this particular person? In my view, that is the big question in the room. As I conclude, let me say this. I want to thank everybody who has put their time into this. Our development partners, the other actors in the justice system and in the care child protection environment, all of us who have put our time together, our minds together, to be able to come up with these documents. But again, just send the warning again, that let the not be documents for us. particularly in Kenya. Let us go out there and put them into action and bring the children along with us as we do so. I want to thank you, Chief Guest, and everybody who's present, and particularly for the PA for making this my participation possible through this virtual presentation. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice, Lady Justice Mabeka. We can get her commitment into this. Chief Guest and Waziri, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to present to you one important Kenyan from Kenya Association of Caregivers, who is going to present a piece around changing from institutions to reintegration.
Good afternoon, everybody. The chief guest is Grace the Bishop, Dr. Jackson Oresapit, the host cabinet secretary, public service, Professor Kobia, the children of Kenya, and the caregivers who are present here, the principal secretary, State Department of Social Protection. My name is Bernard Mororo, and my mother and my father passed on when I was a small child in 1997 and 2000 respectively. I was left under the care of my relatives. I was born HIV positive, and this is the reason why my relatives took me to a children's home, because they could not provide for me ARVs and also support me with education. So from their good heart, they thought taking me to the children's home was the best solution. I am grateful to the institution that raised me. I got that education and health support, but I have come to realize that life is more than survival. It is more than food, shelter, clothing, and medication. Mother Teresa once said, "The hunger for love is greater than the hunger for bread." During my time in care, I always wished I had someone I could call dad or mom. Someone who could call me son and to hear the words, "I love you, my son." In the children's home, I felt discriminated against by the society, not just because of the walls separating us and the rest of the society, but also because the institution was confined only for those living with HIV and AIDS. I felt like the society had rejected us, and those of us living with HIV only belonged to this environment. I lacked the experience of a normal childhood and a normal society. After leaving care at the age of 22 years, I had to learn how to cook, how to go shopping, make my own bed, learn to take public transport. I had to start washing my own clothes, struggled to do simple budgets because everything was done for us in the children's home. In fact, I could use 10,000 shillings in 2 weeks because I never knew how to, that practical budgeting issue. Today, it gives me so much joy and satisfaction that we have learned from the past and that the future generation is assured of a better childhood, better than we had through this care reform initiative. It emphasizes support and growth for every child in a family and in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here as a member of Kenya Society of Caregivers, an organization formed by young people who have a lived care experience in children's homes and the statutory children's institutions. We are grateful our voices were heard throughout the development of this strategy of care reforms. Thanks to the Ministry of Public Service for this great strategy. Speaking on behalf of the young people who have lived in children's homes here in Kenya, we want a better society that indeed cherishes the family and the community unity. We want a society that does not cherish or uphold orphanhood above family, a society where every single child and the young person enjoys the love and care of a family. Ladies and gentlemen, our experiences in institutions have taught us that institutions come and go, but a family remains. Institutions are shut down for all sorts of reasons, including lack of funding, malpractices, but a family is never shut down. Children are assured of a consistency of care, support, and love. We must say we are proud of this move by the government to take this country back to what it used to be, even before our mothers and fathers were born. A society where it was hard to identify orphans because relatives and people in communities stepped in to embrace these children. Today, we appreciate that there is kinship, care, foster care, local adoption, guardianship, and kafala, which are better options to ensure that every child and young people remain supported in a family environment and in community. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, as enshrined in our Constitution, the family is the fundamental unit of our society. Every other policy and intervention should orbit around this fundamental unit. I will end with something to ponder. If we fail to bring up our children and young people in the family, how should we expect them to bring up their own families? Again, we are honored and delighted to be here on this auspicious event. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Yeah, that's it. So Bernard, our chief guest, Waziri, and ladies and gentlemen, represents the way we care. The chief guest and Waziri and the development partners and the colleagues, during COVID, schools were closed down, and so institutions are part of those institutions that we got direction that we should close down. What surprised some of us is that the majority of the children who are in the institutions found their way to their guardians, at least one parent, close relative, and we were shocked. And yet institutions were full. So we said, you are not coming back to the institution. You will stay where you are, and the government will support you from that environment. So, Waziri, this is what we are trying to, as a government, and when we held a meeting with you, you emphasized that these reforms must go on, and we really want to thank you around this issue. Ladies and gentlemen, as we now move closer to closing this session, when we were preparing for this function, the committee, the technical team from various ministries did request me to request our CS, Professor Kobia, to be the chief guest. So, as it is, we did an official letter addressed to her. In 2 days, she responded. She said, yeah, the function should go on. I'll go ahead with the preparations. Then, after 1 week, she called. She goes to the office very early. By 7, she's there. I see her calling me. By 6, I'm in the office. Yes, good morning, ma'am. Now, about that function, I'm thinking that we allow our very good friend, His Grace, Dr. Olesapit, to be our chief guest. Unajua ukiambiwa hivyo na waziri wako, you say yes ma'am, si ndio? So I said, yeah, it's good to go that direction, waziri. She's our good friend. She doesn't harass us, even on phone, you talk like sister, brother, you get. So we started the preparations. Those of you who don't know Waziri, she has grown up in an environment of integrity, professionalism. Look at the way she turned KIA into KSG, into a global outfit, wherever she puts her hand. So for those of us who work under her, we feel offended to offend her or do shoddy work. That's the way it goes. So, and when she was inviting His Highness, is somebody we know very well. Who doesn't know Dr. Oresapit? A man of God, I know Waziri will speak to that. Somebody who speaks for peace, love, who is uniting the country. Even when I was the county commissioner at PC Coast, I would look around very few Kenyans to encourage me as a role model. One of them is my God. The second person is my president who stood with me. I'll look around Oresapit, see him preach. He will encourage me. I'll look around Professor Kobia, how he performs. And you say, why can't I be like them? So we are proud to have these two Kenyans here. So ladies and gentlemen, with humility, allow me to invite Professor Margaret Kobia to speak to us. And maybe, Professor, you will mention the presence of our chair, Street Families, Mheshimiwa Mary Wamboi. Karibu, Professor.
Thank you very much, PS, for that elaborate introduction. I'm happy to be here. Our chief guest, His Grace, Dr. Jackson Olesapit, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Madam Manisa Zamani, the UNICEF country representative, PS Nelson Marwa, Department of Social Protection and Special Programs, Professor Joseph Gaugaro from the Office of the Archbishop, Lady Justice Teresia Maveka, Chair of the Task Force, USAID representative, SINDA representative, representative of other development partners, distinguished guests, the children who are with us this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start by thanking all of you for joining us this morning to launch the two documents. I particularly want to thank the children who are here. Can everyone who is under 18 be upstanding? All of us who are under 18, please start. We want to recognize you in a special way. Thank you very much. Please have your seats. The reason why I wanted to recognize you, our president one time told me, you cannot discuss about the youth without the youth. So today, we are saying we cannot discuss about children without the children, and that's why I'm very happy that my peers made sure the children are here. Let me also thank those seated in this high table who have really taken time to support the teams that have been preparing the document we are launching today. I'm particularly happy when I perused this document, I realized they are really informed by research findings, which means the decision being proposed there have gone through the findings of the research and with a lot of engagement and participation. Therefore, I'll go ahead and read my speech because my speech is short. I'm here actually to invite His Grace because he is our chief guest. Our chief guest is very much known to all of us, in particularly me. I've interacted with him at various forums where in the church I've listened to his sermon and I look up and say, yes, I think this is the kind of person God has given us in Kenya to talk about families, about peace, about love, about the fear of God. And I thought today, when I reflect how I was brought up as a child, all of us were being reminded, how was your childhood? We know without really that care that is provided within the homes, the way we are socialized in our homes is what makes us turn up to be who we are. And of course, within God's guidance. Therefore, I've interacted with His Grace, and I know also from, besides being an archbishop, he is also an authority in social development. That's what is studied most in the university. So this issue of strengthening families is very strong in his heart. And I thought, as my team was asking me to be the chief guest, I said, I could even get you a better and stronger chief guest. Put your hands together. Thank you very much for being here. Therefore, I'm very happy to join all of you at the launch of the two documents aimed at creating an environment that promotes protection and the fulfillment of the rights of the children in our country. Today, my ministry launches the National Care Reform Strategy and the first ever National Plan on Action to tackle online child sexual exploitation and abuse. I thank His Grace, Dr. Jackson Oresapit, once more for accepting our invitation to officiate this event. It's only last Sunday that the ACK St. Cathedral launched the Children and the Teens Center at All Saints Cathedral. That is a real demonstration that the state and the church have shared vision in developing strong, God-fearing families. Over the last 30 years, the UNCRC and the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children have provided a pivot around which child rights in Africa have evolved. This framework reinforced the family unit as the basic building block for any society and the natural environment for growth as well as well-being of all children. The Constitution 2010 of Kenya emphasizes the need for children to be cared for by both parents and to be provided and protected from abuse and exploitation under the Article 53. Ladies and gentlemen, the government through the State Department of Social Protection, Senior Citizen Affairs and a Special Program has put in place various steps towards keeping the children in the families and the communities. The children bill now in the Senate. You and Justice Madeka saying if we have the children bill, we could be now having a framework which will help us protect the children. It is now out of the National Assembly, it is in the Senate, and because it's a bill that touches both national government and county government, it has to go through the Senate, and the full participation has already been done. And we hope this bill will give us prominence on retaining children in their families where this is not possible. The bill has provided for a range of alternative family care options. Through the Inua Jamii program, social protection, safety net, and cash transfer, the government seeks to caution various vulnerable groups in the society. I'm also reminded the Street Family Rehabilitation Fund, whose the chair is here, Honorable Mary Wambui, please wave. Please give her a clap. Honorable Mary Wambui has been working with our team board to really clear the street children from towns and the urban cities. It is also a huge task, which I appreciate here. However, all the effort the government is doing will not be enough. And alone, we need each other. We need the UNICEF. Manisa is here, and she's been working almost across ministries regarding children, the CINDA, the USAID, the faith-based, and other partners to work together. That is what it promises to give us a better, inclusive future for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, in the world that is increasingly shaped by rapid evolution and adoption of digital technologies, the internet is a tool for children to engage in a very empowering way. But I also want to add, it is a double-edged sword. Hence, the strategy we are launching today, so that we use this digital environment for the good, and at the same time be aware the dangers that internet poses. And I want to appreciate also Agnes Mwendo here, because he articulated how if we are not careful, the internet could be the wrong tool. As I conclude, I want to thank all the partners for the support and commitment in improving the lives of the children. To realize the full implementation of the National Care Reform Strategy and the National Plan of Action for Children in Kenya, I really look forward to a greater collaboration among various government agencies, faith-based organizations, civil society, other international organizations in child protection sector. I believe through a coordinated institutional framework, we can hold each other accountable, and we can occasionally come together either through a annual forum to report and dialogue on the progress we have made. With those very many remarks, I want to stop here. And now, it is my very humble duty to invite our chief guest, Most His Grace Reverend Dr. Jackson Oresapit, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, to deliver his keynote address as we listen very, very carefully. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizen Affairs, and Special Programs, Professor Margaret Kobia, for this great honor and invite that I be the guest of honor for this great occasion. The UNICEF country representative, Ms. Manisa Zaman, USAID representative, the chair of the Task Force Children Matters, Lady Justice Teresia Madeka, representative from partner and other government ministries, departments, and agencies, all present here. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all this afternoon. Good afternoon. I am so happy and honored to join you here today for the launch of the National Care Reform Strategy and National Plan of Action to tackle online child sexual exploitation and abuse. As we launch these two documents, it is important to note that children make up almost half of Kenya's population. And as a country, we have the obligation to ensure their rights and welfare are protected and promoted at the same time. We are so delighted to hear, particularly today, that great speech from a youngster, a leader in the making, giving us what they feel about what needs to be done. Many times as adults, we make decisions on their parts without clearly listening to them. I think today, having listened to them, we will relook at the decisions you're about to make on their behalf, not only in this forum, but in other engagements. As I speak to you, I'm also delighted to hear from the gentleman who spoke about his experience in a caregiving home. I was a sponsored child by World Vision. The difference between me and him is that I grew up in an environment of a loving mother because I lost my father when I was 4 years old. I lost my family inheritance through my stepbrothers who did not want us there. But my uncles, the brothers to my mother, took me on board as one of their children, and I grew up in a loving home. And I can attest to what is being discussed today. It is better to grow in such an environment. And the care I got through education is what made me the person I am today, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya. Strong engagement and action and leadership with the support of a diverse group of actors, including the faith-based organization where I belong, is central to the success, reforms, and transformation of child care systems that aims at policy, which today we are looking at the documents that are inform policy framework, but also, more importantly, on what we can do proactively to build the capacity of the child and other caregivers to be alert on the things that are going to harm them. Even as Madam C.S. mentioned, as a Anglican church, we opened the Children and Teen Center. I'm now getting some insights on what is going to go into that center in terms of programming. One of it will be how do we build the capacity of the children as they come to be alert on the use of internet and how they can be able to protect themselves. Any society that cares for the children cares for its future. So when we talk about children here, we are talking about the future of our nation, the future of our nations, because without care for them now, not tomorrow, we will not have them tomorrow. It is therefore paramount that we remind ourselves that the family remains the fundamental nurturing and caring environment and is the ideal place in which to raise a child. Placing children in their original communities gives them identity and a sense of belonging and will go a long way to help them benefit from support networks in the community. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to also, at this juncture, quote a scripture that mandates us or asks us to put the instruction of children at the center of the family. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6 and 7, Moses was instructed by God to remind the children of Israel of the commandments of the Lord, those instructions that are supposed to guide them to become a better society. But in this text, he is now reminding every family that it is a responsibility to teach these things to their children. And therefore, these are the words he uses. These words which I command you today, these words which I command you today shall be in your hearts. You shall teach them to your children diligently. Talk about them when they sit down in the house, and when they walk by the way, and when they lie down and sleep, and when they rise up. You shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be in their frontlets between their eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. This is a very elaborate command that at the family level, that is the place where instruction is supposed to happen. Guidance, counseling, protection, showing our children the way to protect themselves. God imagined that when Israel as a nation and as a society keep the law, they will be able to progress and prosper. That is what we are talking about today. Creating policy framework, the law that protects, guidance that is needed for our young ones to be able to grow and thrive in their own times, even when they take the mantle of leadership. Protecting our children from different forms of abuse is best achieved when they are cared for in a family and community environment, as also imagined in the Bible. As a country, we acknowledge that the times which we live in are challenging. Families are experiencing multiple challenges that adversely affect children. These challenges include diseases, parental death, family breakdown, natural disasters, and poverty. One of our speakers, the leader or the representative of UNICEF, mentioned that we need to isolate the segments that are problematic to our children and childcare and address them as they are. And therefore, we need a concerted effort, not just by one entity, but by all of us. And we really want to thank the government and the Ministry of Gender, led by Professor Kobia, for coming up with this framework, so that we can be able to look at what is it that is affecting us. However, the centrality of the family unit within our society never changes, and we need to really place it at the center as our focus of target, so that at the family level, we are getting it right. It is unfortunate that many children in Kenya are separated from the loved ones or care of families. As we speak today, over 47,000 children are in residential institutions of care, while 15,000 live on the streets. And I thank God that Madam Mary is now taking care of street children and ensuring that, and the government is ensuring that we are reducing those numbers. Additionally, there are over 3.6 million orphans and vulnerable children in Kenya. I am happy to note that the National Care Reform Strategy, which we are launching today, provide a glimmer of hope in all these children, and that the government is committed to scale up its institutionalization by strengthening families and preventing children from family separation, among other measures. Ladies and gentlemen, the internet can be a powerful tool for children to connect, explore, learn, and engage in creative and empowering ways. On the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw our education system adopt online learning methods for most of our learners. On the other hand, unprecedented access to the cyberspace exposes children to online child sexual exploitation and abuse. In this digital age, the cyberspace is increasingly becoming complex, requiring any responsible society to do all that it can to safeguard our children and even adults in particular due to their vulnerabilities in this space. It is therefore important to empower children with knowledge and skills of navigating the internet and reaping maximum benefit while ensuring their safety while online. I'm happy to note that the plan we are launching today to address online child sexual exploitation and abuse in Kenya not only targets children, but also parents, caregivers, teachers, community leaders, and other minders of children to have the necessary knowledge and skills on the adoption of protective online measures and behavior of our children. But also, from listening to Madam Teresia, we need strong laws that can bring perpetrators to book. Children hold our present and future as they mirror the image of the society and therefore should be given the greater attention. Let us all, both government and partners, other actors, community leaders, faith leaders, continue to put measures to ensure a holistic and comprehensive approach to end all forms of child exploitation and ensure our children are cared for in a safe and secure environment. I wish to take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate all the partners for committing both human and financial resources towards these protective measures and get us into the space where we have now a framework to follow. I urge you all to align your programming and implementation with the government agenda as outlined in 2 documents we are launching today, that we can safeguard the welfare of our children, which also means the welfare of our future and future generations. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless the children of Kenya. God bless the children of the world today.
Thank you, our chief guest, for that powerful presentation. Most people look at you as the reverend in church, but you are also juggling in the academics. Thank you, and we are humbled that our CS found it necessary to invite you. How we wish, Waziri, you would invite him more to engage with us, because there is a direct link between the church and the state, and on matters governance and children. Ladies and gentlemen, the chief guest, accompanied with CS Professor Kopia and development partners, shall now proceed to launch the important document, launch the National Care Reform Strategy for Children in Kenya and the National Plan for Action to tackle online child sexual exploitation in Kenya. Most welcome our chief guest, accompanied by all development partners. Come.
Oh. Thank you. It's now great pleasure for our chief guest to officially launch our 2 documents. Kindly press the button. Let's applaud. Congratulations to all of us. This is a great moment for public service, State Department Social Protection. Those are our 2 documents we have launched today. Thank you very much. The booklets, please. Come kindly. We'll have a photo session and kindly escort. Oh, sorry. These are yes. Okay. Sanitizer. Machine, songe hapa. Songe hapa. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. These are our 2 documents. If you can lift them up a bit. Applause. Applause. Congratulations to all of us once more. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes. Madam, vote of thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our chief guest, His Grace Archbishop Dr. Jackson Sapit, our Secretary, Cabinet Secretary, Professor Margaret Kopia, our PS, Nelson Marwa, and all UN agencies that are gathered here today, and other state and non-state actors, children and families that are present today, and all our distinguished guests. Good afternoon. I thank all of you for sparing time to come to this occasion today. Thank you for investing into this process, the 2 documents that we have launched today. We want to appreciate you. On behalf of the Planning Committee and the Care Reform Court that contributed to the development of these documents, it's our desire that we not share these documents, but we are going to give them out there for the service. Allow me to say this day, it's a great day, our Cabinet Secretary. It's an honor to our children. It's an honor to our children to be born in this country, that you create a safe and loving environment for every child in this country. May our good God bless all of you and bless our children. Thank you so much.
Yes. Let's stand up.